All right, good morning, guys. So I'm speaking with Joanne Durden and Joanne Roberts from Clitheroe Royal Grammar School, which is in Lancashire. And it's an Ofsted-rated outstanding grammar school with over 600 students you've got in your sixth form, haven't you? So a big sixth form. So this morning we're going to talk about Enrolment Day specifically. So do you guys want to start by giving us a quick intro into each of your roles in the school?
Yeah, so I'm Joanne. I dealt with the enrolment process last year for the first time of using Admissions Plus. And so that was from an admin point of view. And then after enrolment, we moved across and Joe took over. We made sure we used the same name so there's no confusion. And what do you do, Joe?
I'm the sixth form secretary here, so I deal with all the admissions. So I've started with admissions, using Admissions Plus from September up until now.
Okay, excellent. So the first thing is, what would you say are your biggest challenges for the school on Enrolment Day? And I'm guessing partly for you it's numbers because you have a lot of people joining, but yeah, what were the biggest challenges that you saw?
Yeah, we have a very big sixth form. We can take upwards of 300 students into year 12. About 120 of which come through from our main school, but then we have to recruit over 200 external students, and they come from over 40 local feeder schools. So it's really quite difficult. We need to make sure that we do have contact with them, and we have a good sort of two-way conversation in the lead up to Enrolment Day. And we obviously need to be in contact with them to tell them how to come in and what our procedure is for enrolment on the day. So that is quite a difficult job to manage in the run-up to Enrolment Day itself.
Right. And last year with COVID, did you see particular difficulties around that?
Yeah, we realised fairly early on that our traditional enrolment day, which involves all the students, and usually they bring family members with them to the sixth form and they enrol in person on the day, and obviously that was just impossible to do last year. So which is why we took Admissions Plus on board, because we knew that we had to look at a remote system that would still give us the ability to communicate well with people who were wanting to join us, but that we could run the admissions on a remote basis actually on the day. And we sort of we did a lot of it remotely, but we still had a personal contact with them because we did contact them as well on results day. Right. But that was the main drive for us, was the COVID and not being able to actually have people in the building in person.
Yes, it changed everything very quickly for all schools, didn't it? From not realising, obviously, that this was going to happen, and then not being able to run, open days and enrolment days in person is a very, very different landscape. Right. So I was going to talk a little bit about the process using Admissions Plus, but before that, could you just explain what your process was like before you got Admissions Plus and how you used to organise it?
Yeah, so what we did, we try and get everybody to enrol on results day itself, and we usually set a deadline of lunchtime, which then gives us chance to produce the timetable moving forward, because there's an awful lot of admin work to be done. So we would contact all of the applicants and invite them all into the sixth form in the morning. We gave them a deadline of 12:30, so we could have upwards of 400 or 500 people in the building, and then it was basically a queuing system waiting to be enrolled in person by an experienced member of staff, a bit like a deli where they have a number and then we literally just used to see them in turn, and it was just a paper exercise. They would enroll, they would bring their results, we would record them, and then the paper form would go to the data office. They would input them and start to create the timetable, and then that was the enrolment process. So it was very labour intensive, manual system, and it was just face to face all the time. So it was quite a busy day.
Yeah, and did they need to fill in paper forms before, like when they actually came into the school? Had they needed to do forms before that point, or did they do them at the school?
Yeah, we would send them a registration form in advance that they would complete and send them back, and then we used the information that they gave us to input onto Sims. So that was very sort of labour intensive as well, because we had to input the information for every student that had applied, but at that point we didn't know how many would actually appear on the day to register. So a lot of the work we did, we didn't really need to do, because not all of them came to register, but we still needed to input all the details. So it was quite a labour intensive job to start with.
Yes.
And then again afterwards, when we knew who was coming, we then had to sort of like reduce the numbers and remove all the extra information that we no longer needed.
Gosh, okay, that's very, very, very difficult process.
Yeah.
So obviously now your school is using Admissions Plus. So thinking about last year when you started with it, obviously we've got different functions that are specifically tailored for managing an enrolment day. And we've got three main areas: details to be checked for students, ready to enroll. So once they've been checked, they're ready to be enrolled, and then enrolled, which means they're with you for September. So could you explain a little bit about how you used the details to be checked area last year? Well, I guess, did you use it? And if so, how did that help you?
Yeah, we did. We were able to use Admissions Plus to email all the applicants the day before results day to give them some instructions on what to do. Right. Then on results day morning itself, they were all told that they needed to log in and enter in their GCSE results and upload a copy of their results slip. So in the details to be checked, the names started to appear in that list as each student had completed the first part of their enrolment. So their job in the morning was to enter their results manually, upload a copy of the results slip, and then in the details to be checked, a member of staff would pick up a student's name and they would literally just check through the details and make sure that the details that they'd entered matched up with the results slip. So that was the first part of the checking process done. And then when they checked it, they clicked on the link to say that student's details had been checked, and then the student moved straight into the ready to enroll section. So we had a team of staff and they were just responsible for working through each student that had entered the results. And that's what they sat there in a classroom and did that for the first few hours of the morning.
Mm-hmm. Right, so quite different to what you'd outlined from the previous year.
Yeah, very different.
Okay, so once the staff members checked all of the students' details and they've gone through into the second area, ready to enroll, could you explain a little bit about just the course blocking, the blocks of courses and the waiting list area?
Mm-hmm. We, when they were in the ready to enroll section, we had actually set the system up in advance with the blocks for each of the subjects, so that we knew that even if the student on results day had selected a different subject, it would all fit within the timetable frame that we'd already created. Right. We also set it up so that even some of our subjects have a specific entry requirement. Mm-hmm. So, for example, to do further maths, they would need to achieve a certain grade in maths.
Yes.
And we'd set it up so that students could apply for any subject regardless of the results, because what we need to do is make that process as easy as possible for students. We didn't want anything to stand in the way. So if a student had applied for a subject they weren't qualified for, in the ready to enroll section, that student would have an amber background or a red background, which would indicate to the staff member that there was something about their enrolment process that maybe wasn't just quite as straightforward. Mm-hmm. The students that had enrolled onto the subjects they were qualified for, their background is green, And so we had a few less experienced staff. So we were able to say to them, you pick up the green students, because we knew that their enrolment process would be really straightforward.
Yes.
So they would, we could sort of give them to the less experienced staff and say, just enroll them. And it was such an easy process. They just clicked them through into each subject, accepted their enrolment. And then as an extra step, because it was the first time we'd used it, and we didn't want to get away from the fact that we weren't face-to-face, we then rang each student as we enrolled them, just to have a really quick chat with them on results day, because that's what we've always done. We've always communicated well with our students.
Yes.
And then the more experienced staff could then look at the red and amber ones, see what the problem was, and we could have a look into their application before we actually dealt with it. And that was a really good way of indicating for us which would be the more complicated admissions, because we all know that they're not all straightforward.
No.
So that was a really good indicator. And then any of the ones that we were in query, we popped them on a waiting list for the subjects, and they were there on the list, so we could work through and see. It gives you a list of the students that are waiting for that subject. And so you can go through, and if your subject's full, you can sort of direct them somewhere else. But if you're able to take them and you can sort the query out with them, you just move them from the waiting list back into the subject. So it's really got a lot of features that are really useful on enrolment day for the students.
Right, that's so interesting. And I guess for those ones with the red background, it made it easy for staff. I'm guessing you then rang them up and had a chat with them to see what their options were.
Yeah.
Right.
It was sometimes it was they hadn't met the entry requirements. Sometimes, you know, we were able. Sometimes they just picked the wrong subjects that weren't playing to their strengths. So for whatever reason, but it did indicate which students that would need more of an involved conversation.
Okay. So once that's all complete, a student's enrolled, obviously, with you. Is there anything after that that you needed to do to just sort of finalise the process, or I guess maybe they get an email to give them the place, or what's your sort of final part of the puzzle? Yeah,
there is an option on Admissions Plus. So literally as soon as you finish their enrolment, they get an email. What we chose to do on the day was we chose to switch that option off, just because it was the first time. So we could check that everything was okay and all the waiting lists had been worked through. And then at the end of the day, we used Admissions Plus to do a blanket email to everybody that had enrolled with their options that they'd finalised. So that was a confirmation to them that their enrolment had been complete. And also for us, we knew then that those were the students that were coming to us in September.
Okay, so it's quite a smooth process, hopefully. with that number. I mean, you're always going to get little sort of glitches, I guess, but it's a very big number that you're enrolling each year.
It did work really well. It was very smooth because we are dealing with very large numbers of students. And it did work really well on the day. We were all quite, because the other thing as well is you can see very quickly how many students are enrolling and how your subjects are filling up, because the numbers are updating live as you're enrolling. So that's a really good function as well. So you can see your position a lot earlier than when it was a full manual system.
Yes. No, the live data is very helpful. Okay, so Joe, obviously you're now using the platform more generally for admissions throughout the year, as well as for obviously the enrolment that we've talked about. So could you explain a little bit about how you use the platform, and maybe specifically around the communication part, like how it helps you with that?
Yes, I've started using Admissions Plus since September for our New Year intake. The first thing that we did was organise an open evening event through Admissions Plus.
Okay.
So everybody registered for our open evening event, and then at the open evening we then opened up the admissions page. So that was really good because we had a very, very good hit rate and good crossover of people that attended the open evening to then going on to registering their interest with us. Since then, I've just been, as the years progressed, then learning to do the online options meetings, which we did earlier on this year. We arranged over 400 options meetings through Admissions Plus, and that all worked perfectly. The great thing is the constant communication, because we have students now in different stages of the application process. It's putting them all in different groups, and then I can email each particular group with updates or with more steps of what they need to do with us.
Right.
So as the cycle goes through to results day, it just depends what more we need to do.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess I know a lot of schools have said to us it helps to communicate with parents and, well, I guess with the students directly for sixth form, but before they've even joined the school. So you can maybe send newsletters or welcome emails and things like that through the system.
I send everything through the Admissions Plus system, and because there's I love the communication log, because if I'm dealing with a particular student, I can click on that communication log and it will bring up every email that I've sent. So we've got a really good history there of the process that I've sent to them. Yes. And you can also see if the student or the parent has opened the email as well, which is important. Sometimes you don't know if they've opened their emails, so you can see that they've read their emails, so they have got the instructions or whatever it is that we've sent them. So even if people do send me emails through Outlook, I generally reply through the Admissions Plus, so there's always that track.
Yeah, yes, you can always refer back to that then, which is good, isn't it, to see that things were delivered. Okay, that's very interesting. So obviously you guys have used it extensively over the last year. Have you had feedback after enrolment day or generally about Admissions Plus from families, how they've seen the change since you've moved over to the digital platform?
Yes, in early September, we did have quite a few families say that it was very easy to register with us, to enrol with us last year for results day. And then throughout this cycle, we've had quite a lot of positive feedback, because when the student logs into their account on their homepage, it says everything that they need to know. They've got their A-level choices on the front of the page in case they've forgotten what A-levels that they're wanting to do. Yeah. On there, the invitations to any events that we're holding. At the moment, we are opening some student preview days in a few weeks. So there's invitations for them to pick and choose their own times for those. And again, the student then also has a log of all the emails that we've sent, so they can refer back to an email that we've previously sent them. Yeah, so it helps them, helps you obviously save time. Yeah. So that's so interesting. Thank you both. You've gone into a lot of detail about enrolment day and how you use it for admissions, which I'm sure is going to help other schools that are watching. So thank you to both of you for giving up your time this morning. Really appreciate it, and good luck with your enrolment day this year. Will you be able to have the students in this year? I'm guessing you will.
I think we're going to try and do a bit of a hybrid. We're going to do most of it online, I think. Yeah. And then some of the more difficult sort of conversations, instead of having them over the phone, we'll invite the students in. Yes. We can have that a bit of a more face-to-face. Because I think the one thing that we have noticed is, because it's such an easy system to use, we are getting increased numbers of people showing an interest in joining us. And that's the other thing that, it's a good thing. We're running out of space, but we'll just keep taking them. And because it's so easy for them, we're getting increased numbers as well. So we're hoping to do a bit of a hybrid, I think, this year, aren't we? A bit more bit more face to face. That's good.
Best of both worlds.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, I'm just going to pause.